亮凯，
我是路遥。
Welcome back, everybody, to the Gold Cup World Championships. This is Gia and Nayara Silvestre. Thank you so much for joining us, Nay. How are you feeling today? We're going to cast some Constructed.
I'm so excited to be here with you, Gia. Well, we already saw an amazing games of Battlegrounds, so let's go into the Constructed now.
Yes, for our teams for Constructed Day 1, it is going to be RNG, FCB, and Liquid and Team IG. For the very first match, it's going to be FCB versus RNG. From the FC Barcelona team, Nate, who do you think is your favorite player?
Well, we follow Swedes for a while now from the Grandmaster, but I'm looking forward to see Blaze. Like, I only saw him on the Masters Tour, and he breaks through Masters Tour, like winning 2 in a row. That's absurd. So I'm looking forward to see how he is going to play. If he's going to play like on that style, like super fast, or if he will chill down to listen to the fellows of his team. What do you think?
From X-Blizes, you bring up a good point that we've seen him absolutely kill it in the Masters Tours, right? But outside of that, we don't hear very much from Blaze. He hasn't had the chance to play in GM just yet because his season hasn't started, but he will be an upcoming European Grandmaster. So outside of the Masters Tour ecosystem, this is going to be a big test to see if Blaze can really hold up to that reputation. Of course, alongside Swids and Jim, who are already European Grandmasters. That's a team that I think among the internationals, though, we still look at FC Barcelona as a relatively underdog compared to Team Liquid. We did some predictions as casters before this tournament started. Who among the international teams did you say is the best, Nick?
Yeah, I will go with Team Liquid for sure. Like, we have amazing names for Constructed and Battlegrounds. And we didn't saw this with the Barcelona team on Battlegrounds. They didn't went so well. So I don't know.
Yeah. Just for today, at least, though. But we cannot, of course, skip talking about the Chinese teams because RNG in particular, they have a very strong player in Liu who is, he recently had a great performance in MT APAC and has been active in the scene for many, many years. Now that we're switching to a format that the Chinese players are a lot more familiar with LHS, do you think that our players that we know a little bit better, do you think they can hold up?
Yeah. They will have to go ahead and try it because I remember when we had LTS on Grandmaster, the players kind of struggle with the format because they are not used to. So I think is the time for Chinese players show us how to do it.
Yeah, for sure. They are playing on their home turf and with the advantage in knowing how this very complicated format works. So for anybody who's just joining us now, we have just finished the Battlegrounds portion of the day and we're now heading into the first match of Constructed between FC Barcelona and Team RNG. And the format is going to be all 10 classes need to be submitted, a single deck list by each team, and then first of all, each team will ban one class away from the other team. They'll come back and reconvene, discuss, and then ban another 2 classes, same thing, and then ban a 4th class. And after that, 6 classes will remain on either side. And from there, you can actually pick any into a best of LHS. So there's actually going to be some decks that don't need to be played at all to get the win here. So starting off, what archetypes are going to be the strongest? Nate, what would be your number 1 ban priority here?
I think Warrior or maybe Highlander Hunter, like all of the teams bring Highlander Hunter, and we have a variation and between the warriors, right? Because there's the enrage, there's the egg one, the bomb one, the control one, and we will see it all. So I think we will depend on the strategy of the the things, but mainly on the Highlander Hunter that after the nerfs got really, really strong.
Yes, Highlander Hunter, we saw it perform very well in Masters Tour APAC, or perhaps not have the highest win rate, but it was
Yeah.
so universally brought that you had to have it in mind that at some point you're going to face off against Hunter. But that is not necessarily true for this format, where the most popular classes are likely to get banned out. Now, do you expect that we're going to be seeing less popular classes like Shaman or Paladin get picked?
I don't know because I think will depend which classes will stand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they will start with Paladin like never, but
Yeah.
maybe if they left like Druid open or even Shaman open, I don't know, they can match on these matchups that will be favorable. But it has a team that have uh, I call it a meta breaker paladin. That wasn't
Okay.
pure paladin. It wasn't Murloc paladin. It was the librarian paladin. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they tested it and like it more than the Murloc one that we are used to, and we hope to see Murloc Pala. So
Yeah.
let's see.
Meta Breaker Libram Paladin. I remember seeing a little bit of that in Masters Tour APAC with the crazy combo you can do with the Mount Sellers after all the
Yeah,
Librams hit 0 mana. But looking at the deck list right now, it looks like both FCB and RNG have defaulted to Murloc Paladin for
yeah.
their lists. What do you think about this crazy tech I'm seeing here in FCB, Crazed Alchemist?
Yes, they are more like aggro ones. They
Mhm,
doesn't have any consecration. They have hungry crabs, and so they are going through the aggro thing. Uh,
mhm.
and it's different than the RNG that they have a more standard list, right?
Yes, I'm not seeing hungry crabs there, so they're not necessarily expecting the mirror. And I'm also not sure what exactly the crazed alchemist is trying to hit. But
Yeah.
do you think that because they're including hungry crab, that they will only use the paladin if they can queue it into a mirror?
Yes, probably right. Because
Mhm,
it's not um, bad. You eat some of your murlocs if it's a little one, but
mhm.
not what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, it's not the ideal situation. And because we are in last hero standing where after you lose with the deck, your opponent has to stick on the one that they're playing, unlike Conquest where they can switch around, it is very possible to go for counter Q strategies very head on here. And if I'm looking at any archetypes that can be used for counter Q in particular, I'd think of there has to be a very strong control deck on either of these lineups. But I'm looking at the Demon Hunters on both sides, and they're both tempo. Do you think it's a bit weird that nobody decided to go for a control Demon Hunter?
Yeah, I think the Tempo Demo Hunter is the right choice because you can kill and like it's strong even after the nerfs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the right call for the last hero standing format. But I don't know if they will let the Demon Hunter open. It's kinda
Yeah.
you can do like 3-0 with Demon Hunter nowadays.
It's true. That is a deck that's very likely to sweep. So even Language Hacker said the same thing. That's probably priority number one for banning. Although you said Warrior, I think those two are in the 1 and 2 slots. I think after the bans are done, I can see potential for classes like Rogue to still get a sweep. If Rogue manages to stay up, I think this is one of the classes that even after the nerfs has been very, very powerful. For Rogue, do you prefer the version that has the stealth package or the secret package?
Yeah, this weekend I played some open cups and I used the stealth package, but
Mhm.
because I was expecting more aggro lineups, so the stealth one is better. But when you are expecting like priests and mages and something like that, I think the secret package is better for sure.
you brought up mage and priest, so I'm going to ask you again. For priest in particular, most people are going for Galakron priest, for example. But if we look at resurrect priest, that's probably one of the strongest options for a control deck. Where in last hero standing, you want to have decks that are more polarizing in order to get a good matchup. So, do you think that the Galakron priest is the ideal archetype for this tournament, or something else?
Yeah, I'm not used to play as priest. I hate priest very much. So, but what surprised me was doesn't I we didn't see as much QB priest as I was
Mm,
expecting to see. But yeah, the priest guys, they say that the Galacron is really good, like the better archetype for sure.
yeah. Priest guys. I think I know who you're talking about. It's Zanananan Moya and that whole crew of priest mains. You mentioned cube priest. That's actually what I meant by resurrect priest, but I haven't changed my mind yet on how to actually refer to it because now it has the whole tempo package and everything like that. For this tournament compared to Masters Tour Asia Pacific, though, it's just a few weeks ahead, but there's also a big change that now transfer student is legal to be played in all of these decks. I'm sure you've done a lot of testing yourself with this card. Do you like it, Nai? What kind of list do you expect to see transfer student be played
Yes,
in?
I think transfer student it has a good place on Highlander Hunter,
Mm-hmm.
and we are seeing it on some Highlander mages, but I think on Highlander Hunter is very fine, and it's a really good card when you get a good map. But again, I don't expect to see hunters on the tournament, so
Yeah. But I'm interested that in the Rogue of RNG, they're actually playing one of Transfer Student, and this is not Highlander Rogue. It's the somewhat stealth package version, but they have a lot of one ofs here. There is one of Devoted Maniac, one of Umbral Skulker, one of Questing Adventure, one of Faceless Corruptor. It might as well be a Highlander deck. What do you think about this Rogue, Nai?
yeah, it's I was analyzing it yesterday, and I I was like shocked because they are using Devoted Maniac that we don't get to see him at all on those
Yeah.
times, and they could put a Zephyrs on that deck
Yes.
because it has so few copies of duplicated cards. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm counting it right now. There's seems to be only 7 cards that have two ofs here, and then the rest is 16 one ofs. So I really don't know where their head is at for this particular deck, but I would be interested to see if maybe FC Barcelona will leave Rogue up because they feel a little less threatened by that. The other thing I wanted to about is Druid in particular. I learned from our resident Chinese helpful guy, Tony Liu, who is that Druid is one of the classes which has been so popular in the Chinese scene before the nerfs, but after the nerf to Fungal Fortunes, we could see some change in it. Do you like the version that has dragons that we've been seeing for a long time, or do you prefer the newer version that has the Malagos or even Onyxia at the top end?
Yes, we are not seeing the dragon package like the Onyxia and Maligos, as you said, but we are seeing the hybrid one with the Emerald Explorer. And I feel like this is the best version for now for Druid. The fungal fortunes got really strong in nerfs considerations. Like I bring up to the master tour on the APEC master tour, and I regretted so much
Yeah.
because yeah, we didn't have the time to test it. So
Yeah.
when we play it, it felt really strong. I bring up the spell druid, not the hybrid one, but yeah, it went really strong. But like language hacker said, the Chinese players love druid, so I will not be surprised to see druid being banned on the ban phase.
All right. Thank you for answering all of my incessant questions about these deck lists. Nay, it looks like we're ready to hop into the pick and ban phase. So we'll throw you. So it turns out we only had a very brief glimpse of the bands here. I'm going to ask for a screenshot real quick from our lovely production crew, but it was nice that we saw the achievement list for some of the players right there. In particular, Zim is one of the newest grandmasters and perhaps one of the GMs that we know the least about, but he has definitely proven himself and had a very, very close run in with relegation, but managed to defeat Hunter Ace at the last hurdle. Do you expect Zim to be a performer in this tournament, Night?
Yes, Zing, he came as a underdog, right? So I I feel like he has a lot to prove to everyone. So I think he will manage to go pretty well on this one to show everyone that he has this spot because he deserves it.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that we can call Zim an underdog because he's actually the first one to be on FC Barcelona, whereas his teammates joined a little bit later. For a lot of the international teams, there's actually some temporary people joining on Team Liquid. There's Dead Draw, and for T1, they have Zixo for the constructed portion. But we are going to be seeing for game one already, Zim is queuing up his Druid versus the Stealth Galakron Rogue from RNG Kylin. So this is actually seems to be a 50-50 matchup, which I'm a bit surprised about now. Do you think that it's actually a coin flip in terms of favor?
Yes, it's a coin flip, definitely. It's really even, this matchup. It will depend how Rogue will open, if he can put the early minions on the board and make some pressure on the Druid boards, and if Druid can get the ramps, right?
And the fact that Zim gets to play his Druid at all is very, very telling, I think, of how different the Chinese players see Druid now that we've had the bans go through. Because previously, they were sometimes banning Druid before Warrior, but now they've left it up even with 4 different bans. So they must have a good strategy to deal with it. But I'm so excited to see this strange rogue that we were talking about, the one of cards. We can see Transfer Student already. And oh my gosh, my board knowledge is being tested because I can't read the Chinese text.
Yes, we can see the lists here. Let me open, and we actually got the bans from our lovely production.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, and from the Barcelona side, we will not see Demon Hunter, Warlock, and Warrior. And from the RNG side, we are not getting see Priest, Druid, Warrior, and Warlock.
Okay. The priest ban is something I didn't necessarily expect, but maybe they have a plan for which they have a deck that they really don't want priest to run up against. But getting into this particular game, Kylin had that Spy Mistress start, always a good way to get the pressure rolling. And for Zim, though, he's hit the double overgrowths, but no card draw for now.
Yes, no card draw, but the Emerald Explorer will help with the fluid turns because he will ramp, and then make the Emerald. So, yeah.
Yes. For transfers, I'm still trying to figure out what this game board is, but it looks like the most natural play for Kylan is going to be that, because if he coins Miscreant, the rest of the curve becomes a little bit awkward. He does generate a lackey though, because this is the Rise of Shadows board, and it's essentially like a mini Miscreant. And maybe the possibility for generating lackeys is another reason for including Transfer Student in Rogue, because it synergizes well with the rest of the lackey generation. For Zim, though, he could start removing this. Do you think the Transfer Student is threatening enough to warrant a claw?
Yes, it is, but for other side, he draws the Innervate, so he can decide to ramp now. But he will to 5, so I don't know if there is a point on that, and I think he is going to.
Yeah, even though the curve isn't completely smooth, I think Zim wants to get both of the ramp cards online before Kylan has time to develop a big threat. But that is a huge draw right now. He can play the questing and coin Praise Galakron if he wants to put it up to a relatively healthy 4 life. Do you think that's too much of a use of resources?
No, I think it's really fine, because it's the way you can get a win against Druid on the early game. He will go with it and will do a 4-4, so it's too hard to deal with that. And Zing doesn't have a way to do with that, actually.
One of the side effects of running the Dragon package is that you don't have as much removal. But instead of the Praise Galakron, he's actually going for the Witchy Lackey, which I suppose makes more sense if he wants to get more health onto the board here. Doesn't actually improve any stats, though.
Yeah. Well, now he can remove it if he wants to, but it's not a really nice way. Like he can Claw and Moonfire Hero Power, but a lot of mana, and he doesn't develop anything. Like he can't ramp or do the Emerald Explorer, so yeah.
Yeah, it's a very tough dilemma for Zim, but I think because you mentioned the only way to remove questing would make him float 3 mana. Personally, I'm leaning towards the Emerald Explorer, but Zim is going to go for the removal option instead. Do you agree with this?
Yes, because he can easily snowball and you can't get it. So I think it's the right call here. And for killing is not that bad, because now he can combo the Miscreant and already generate the lackeys. He got a lot of tempo with this play.
Yeah. Not so much additional attack on the board, but it's enough to be annoying for Druid, right? Which is all you can ask for. But the Mount Seller for Zim enters the hand. Only 1 card to combo with it, though. Because it's only having 1 proc, I'm a little bit inclined to delay it. And you can see Zim weighing the options here. What do you think is the benefit if he goes for Emerald Explorer here before Mount Seller?
Yeah, the Mount Seller would be good, because we are not on the flick curve yet, but since he has only one spell to combo with, I don't think it's good, because it would usually die for the board, right? So yeah, and he could get a really good dragon against Rogue. It's one of the best to get it.
Yeah, Twin Tyrant is a great curve, and it also gives something to do for Zim later on if he still feels like he doesn't have enough spells with his Mount Seller. But for this turn, for Killen, he has the Faceless Corruptor to deal with the Emerald Explorer. It seems like it's gonna be it feels bad to trade 2 4/4s into that. The prefers using something like Eviscerate.
I would go with the Faceless, I think, because it's a really good trade, but seems like he's going to value with the spell lackey. So let's see, but it's not a really good choice, right?
I guess the Deadly Poison is what I'm looking at, because Daring Escape feels like too much negative tempo for Killen here. Unfortunately, he doesn't have enough mana to dagger up Poison and go for the Eviscerate, so he still has to trade some of his board, but he ends up still with a decent amount of damage. Oh, the dagger here
Yes.
instead of a lackey means that Twin Tyrant has some better targets here.
Yes, and here I don't know, but I like it to use the Cobalt Lackey to generate the damage and be with more board, but he didn't want to. So yes, now the Tyrant will be ugh, rough for killings.
But Zim also has the option again to go for Mount Seller now because he has 2 spells available. Do you like that being patient with it again?
Yes, I think so. Mainly because now you have the option to have a flick on board, right? So you can wait to generate more things. And 410 is really tough for Rogue to get in.
Your point that if Zim is thinking if Killen has Flick, Sky Shiv to deal with a minion, he might bait it out onto the Twin Tyrant and maybe create a safe path for the Mount Seller. So he also doesn't lose very much by waiting with the Mount Seller because he can still pull out a victory later on as long as he stays at a pretty healthy life total. For Killen though, there's an option to go for Faceless once again alongside a Lackey. Do you like just going for the full clear with the Kobold and Faceless?
Yes, I think it would be not the right play, but it would be a nice play. But this is terrible.
Yeah.
But it's too responsive, right? And you don't want that.
Yeah. I think from Killen's perspective, he's trying to be aggressive because Zim is below 15 health now, and Killen has to expect at some point there's going to be an overflow or a Mount Seller coming down, doesn't have that much time. But with Killen's terrible evolve outcome, doesn't get any death rattle because it didn't have the battle cry to begin with. He's now forced to go on the aggressive. Okay, it's go time for Zim.
Yes, and this is a really nice draw for Zim. Like he can make 3 spells and buff it all the rabbit. No. And I think he has to taunt the Tyrant, right?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to taunt the minion that is threatening, but not the Mount Seller, so that Killen has to choose between, or he has to go through a shield before he can actually get rid of the most scary minion there. But 2 Desert Hares summoned, maybe that's a little bit of RNG to balance out Killen's bad evolve summon.
Yeah. Another taunt to protect it, but I don't think it's enough for Killing to go through this board. Unless he draws some Eviscerate and generate another Cobalt Lackey. It's possible. But has a lot of damage already on the board. I don't know. I think this is it, Gia.
It really does look like it. Zim gets an additional card draw with his overgrowth, even if it's not a Savage Roar for lethal. Killen has to put together a lot of damage to deal with this board. Maybe the Kronk's AoE can help him a little bit, but the nerf to Galakron also is playing a big part in how much mana that Killen is able to cheat out on the following turn.
Yes, and this is it. He doesn't have the Savage... Oh, he has now. But he doesn't have mana, but like you said, the only option here is to draw Kronks and survive another turn, but this way the Mount Seller would be alive anyway, so I don't think it will be possible.
So Zim here actually had an interesting decision whether he wanted to commit the second Iron Bark there because he wouldn't get immediate minion value because his board was full. And he could be saying, if I get board swept, maybe you can save the Iron Bark for the second Mount Seller. Do you like that he goes all in with it this turn?
Yes, I think so. You almost can't get a lose from here, right? But yeah, this will do it, Gia.
Yeah. Yeah, the Kronks and the Shadow Step. Oh yeah, you're right. The top deck actually means that Keelan is able to take the win from almost nowhere. I thought Zim had that win, but we were not paying that much attention, I guess, to how much damage Kalen had available to him already. Absolutely huge there that Keelan manages to take that. I think in the middle, he already felt like he lost after he got that bad evolve. Do you think there was anything Zim could have done to be a bit more aggressive? I'm thinking back to holding onto the Mount Seller for that long.
I don't know. I thought I liked it the way Zing played. I think I would play like him, but the he doesn't draw the crystal powers, right?
Right.
So it's the or overflow. So he was too low in healthy, and they managed to get what the rogue needs on this matchup to be aggressive and be on the range of Kronks and the Kobold Lucky.
Yeah. I have to say, I can't be too results oriented. I also like the way Zim played it, holding onto the Mount Seller at the time seemed like it was totally fine because he was so far ahead on the board. But I think Keelan also did a very good job of recognizing when he had the bad evolve that the board play was not an option anymore. He didn't go for the Faceless Corruptor to take the trades. Instead, he just shipped that Deadly Poison to the face before the taunts could come online for Zim. And that
Yeah.
ultimately gave him enough damage later on because Zim didn't have the time to draw in drawer. So that's going to be game one in favor of Keelan S. And that is already putting FC on the back foot because in Last Hero Standing, as soon as you take the first loss, it already feels like, oh, if it just goes back and forth, I'm just going to lose 2-3. In your experience, Nai, is there a way to kind of turn the momentum in your favor in Last Hero Standing?
Yes, I think so. Knowing which class your opponent will go, you can go with or try to go with a counter. But here for Zing, I don't know if he actually has one because he has the mirror and I don't know because the classes remaining are aren't that good against rogue.
Yeah,
Against
that's
yes, against rogue.
That's right. If we recall the bans that were taken away from FCB are Demon Hunter, Hunter, I just assumed it's Highlander immediately, Warlock, and Warrior. So, in terms of what actually has a good chance against Rogue, I'm thinking about possibly even Priest at this point because Paladin is not going to really win if they have a couple backstabs to start. Mage is a little bit too slow, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But maybe it's an okay option. So between mage and priest, which would you prefer?
I think priest because they can generate. Well, to be honest, on this weekend I lost 2 open cups as rogue playing against mages, so
Oh,
I don't
really?
know.
Yeah. But
Yes,
going off of
because
stats.
mage have some shenanigans that they can do. So and yeah, mage. As you can see, I don't like classes that can do that high roll with some RNGs, but
Right.
yes, but they can go with it for sure.
Yeah, well, this is a team name that's actually RNG, so we cannot knock that out. Of course, it stands for Royal Never Give Up, guys. Doesn't stand for anything different. But for FCB's choice of counter Q, I have to agree that I think Priest is a pretty good pick at this point. It was kind of a debate for a while between Rogue and Priest, what's actually favored, but I think towards the middle of Grandmasters, the casters kind of settled on Priest being the favorite in that matchup. And that was even before the nerfs to Galakron. So after the Rogue Galakron has now been weakened a little bit, I can only imagine Priest still performs well there. So looking at FCB's particular Priest list, I think that there's nothing too weird in there and they can still get it. But we can see Swidz's career prize earnings so far. It looks like Swidz will be the next player. What do you think about Kylan's play so far?
Yeah. So yeah, we can see Swedes now because he doesn't want to play Battlegrounds, right? We saw
Yes.
the interviews. He said, "I will left to this with my teammates."
Yeah.
So yeah, we will get to see Swedes here, and let's see which class he will go, right?
Mhm. Keelan, so far, I think I've been pretty impressed with what we've seen of him on that rogue. But I think if we are going to see a priest versus rogue matchup, it's really gonna test your stamina, which, funnily enough, is not one of the attributes here. As we see our player breakdown of strengths, I love that we got this on the Chinese broadcast. Over in yellow, we see that Swids is looking like a very well-rounded player here. Do you think that his strength is particularly in decision making?
Yes, I think Sweets is really good at decision making on this last Grandmaster season. He went so well, so I think so. I don't know which would be the graphic for his teammates, but yeah, for Sweets for sure.
Would be funny. I mean, we did get the word now that Highlander Mage is what Team FCB will be queuing up against Rogue, which I am surprised about because according to the stats, Mage is slightly unfavored. You did mention Mage chance of pulling out some shenanigans with puzzle boxes, but I still feel like Priest overall is more consistent against Rogue. What do you think, aside from puzzle, is the main advantage for playing Mage versus Rogue?
Yes, Mage can be that class that can build big boards and Rogue can't just deal with. So it's okay. It's not the right choice that I would make. Like you said, the Priest, I think it would be safer. But yeah, it's okay. And the Mage for Sweets is more aggro-teched. So maybe it's the strategy for them.
Yeah, it's a good point. What particular cards in this mage do you say makes it more tech towards aggro?
The Flame Ward, the Bone Ref, the Rust Street Raider, like they are really good tech cards against aggro early game, right?
Yeah, it's a good point you bring up because a lot of Highlander mages these days are cutting Flame Ward and just opting for Ice Barrier. But it does make it so that there are two things to be pulled from the Ancient Mysteries if Team FCB are running that in the list. It appears to not actually be in their list, but they have Transfer Student in their mage. So that's also something that we could see.
Yes. Well, not a really good start for killings. But not a surprise, right? They only use Alpha or Cat and not that much on the 1 mana curve, so
Swids picks up Solarian on curve. Man, if he didn't draw that, I was gonna ask you a controversial question, Nayara. Do you ping face there as mage to play around Seal Fate?
I think so.
Your own face? You would ping it if you didn't have Solarian?
Probably.
Wow, okay.
As a rogue player, I know how this can be so disgusting. Now I will have to use the seal on my own face or on my minions. So it's
okay. I love it. A controversial answer because in APAC GM we actually saw Flurry do the same thing in that spot, but not all of us agreed with it. I think Daruk and I had a very vigorous argument about that. But that's a talk for another day because Swizz has arrived at a nice coin turn between Twilight Drake and Mana Saber. Which do you prefer here?
I think the Mana Saber is really fine because you can go back with your hump. So yeah, it's really good here.
Curves really nicely into the Rusted Raider for the next turn if he wants it. Has picked up Questing Adventurer, but because the Mana Saber is stealthed, he doesn't actually have a good way to build the questing to a health total where it can't actually be answered on board. So are you looking at Seal Fate instead here?
Yes, I think so. Or he can go with the 3 mana drop, but it would be really low of health unless he wants to go with the backstab, but I don't think it's a viable play here.
Yeah, questing dead to a trade on board if it gets played, but maybe it's necessary, as you mentioned, just to build it to around 3 health to damage the Mana Saber to a little bit more. He could bring it up all the way to 4 health if you like, as you said, with the backstab. But at most, that's just going to take an additional ping from Swids to deal with.
Yeah.
Gonna go for the
Oh,
praise.
and
Gallop
he is
Gun.
buffing the questioning.
And this turn from Swids is super clean. Can take a value trade, play the Rusty Raider, and still end with the full board control. But I guess the way that he trades is a bit interesting. So there's an option to keep more health on his Mana Saber. Would you prefer that?
Yes, I think I would trade the Mana Saber on the Pirate for sure. Because the Rust Street have more health, and you want to keep your Mana Saber with a lot of health.
Yeah.
Unless your opponent use an Eviscerate there, but if your opponent has use a Eviscerate there, you are not in a bad place.
Yeah.
It means 2 mana wasted on a minion, so it's really fine.
I would have to agree. And now Swids has built up a very problematic board for Keelan to deal with. Both of them damaged, so they can't get backstabbed, can't get seal fated. But at the very least, Keelan can use his Eviscerate to deal with the Mana Saber. Among these dragons, I'm definitely looking at Waxadread for the next turn. And Keelan agrees. Did you like that over the evasive Draconid?
Yes, for sure. It's really strong against Mage, because Mage has some removals, but not too much removal. So if you are able to revive it a lot of times, it's really annoying.
Yeah. I think that's a good point you bring up, because Mage's removal, it seems like a lot at first, especially with the Tortolan Pilgrim to duplicate those effects and Amazing Reno. But when we look at this matchup, it actually goes a lot longer than it might seem on the first glance. As a rogue player, and I do prefer to take this to the long game value with the rogue, or is it better to take an aggressive approach against Mage?
Yes, I like the long-term playing, but the hand of killings is not helping him. Like, he doesn't have a card draw, he doesn't have super strong turns, and for sweet sides he actually has. Like, he now is going with the Imprisonate, but when we came to the 8 mana thing, he will go really strong there.
Right. Decides to just develop that dormant minion, even though it's not really gonna get much value from the AoE. It's still gonna pop out as a 4/5 later on. For Keelan, though, that's a huge draw.
Against Rogue, it's really nice because of the lackeys. So it's a really good card in general.
Duty. Well, Keelan had some very sorely needed card draw back to back there. Picks up both the Greyheart Sages, and now he has one of the power cards in hand, the Heist Baron Togwaggle. Gonna take a bit for it to get online, because Keelan still needs to play either of his invokes to get a lackey, but he will be able to fight back because Swids is now starting to hit a relatively dead turn. Best thing he can do is play the Twilight Drake and stall for a bit.
Yes, he can play the Twilight Drake and make a ping to prepare the Imprisonate for the next turn, but of course Killing can trade on the Drake. So but as I was mentioned, the hand of Killings wasn't good, but now it's really good. The thing is, he has to use his Maniac or his Seals to make a lackey and then Togwaggle on next turns. But it's looking good.
Yeah, you mentioned that you want to go for Togwaggle immediately next turn, but it's not so straightforward in my opinion, because the Devoted Maniac and the Seal of Faith don't give him additional board presence, right? The Maniac immediately to the Observer. So do you like that he ends up going for Waxadread instead here and delays the Tog plan?
Yes, it's really settle for Killings go to this kind of strategy, The thing is, on the next turn, to deal with the Imprisoned plus the Siamat will be a really rough for him to make all the plays and trades. But yeah, maybe we will see the Maniac entering now to make a trade.
Yeah,
let's see.
I see a full clear with the Seal Fate Maniac and the Backstab and his hero power and trade. It is going to be not really a huge tempo swing in favor of Keelan. You can at most develop a Lackey after that. So that's going to be worrisome going into the 8 mana turn from Swids. But he will at least have the Lackey online to pair with Togwaggle for next turn.
Yeah. Yes, but let's see if he will go with Togwaggle, because it's a good turn for Swids go either with the any 8 mana, and it's a really good spot for using Flick at.
Yeah. Power of Creation, best answered by Flick, and also the 2 elementals best answered by Flick. I'm glad you brought that up. It's a funny interaction there. But Keelan also has timed the Lackey at a great spot where if Swids wants to go for either of those 8 mana spells, he won't have the mana left to ping the Lackey, and so the Tog is available. So it's going to be a choice for Keelan to make here. Hoggers look like they can be very annoying for Rogue.
Yeah. Yes, but not that much, right?
Well, if you're worried about Flick, my argument is that at least this will leave 2 minions that you can't immediately flick.
Oh, but this top deck is really good as well.
Oh, yeah.
To deal with.
So a tough decision for Keelan if he wants to delay this wand for a little bit longer and get the nice flick value, or if he says that these Hoggers are not threatening enough, or I can rely on my top deck cards to deal with them.
Yes. And like I said, Gia, you don't have Rush as a Rogue player, right? Like you can control it, you know all the outs of Mage, so yeah, you can prolong a little bit.
Yeah, Rogue is not in a rush at all, and if Keelan's draws off of the potential one that turn were lackluster, say if he didn't draw any removal, suddenly the Hoggers keep multiplying, right, and the problem gets bigger. So I don't mind that Keelan delays a little bit more. He's not under any pressure, and now Swids can go for yet another power turn. Oh wow.
Yes, but he knows that Flick's on his hand, so I think he will go with Alexstrasza.
Dragoncaster with the Deep Freeze later on could be very scary, but I also agree that Swids can get that nice dragon online, and then he can set up to put all of his struts on board at the same time. The 2 cheap dragons along with the 2 water elementals, and Rogue, if they don't have Galakrond into Kronks available just yet, will have a very hard time dealing with that.
Yes, it wasn't like that good dragons that Swids wanted to see, but it's really fine. And now we have Galakrond for killing.
Fully invoked as well. That is an insane draw. And he picks up not the highest impact cards, but honestly, any card draw from Galakrond puts him in a great spot now.
Yeah. And do you set that?
Yeah, that was what I was gonna ask as well. It gives him a lot of tempo, of course, but I feel like he would rather save the sap for a turn when he's also presenting counter lethal. So because Keelan has a lot of health and I don't mind that he leaves this on board another turn, and then he can save the sap to be paired with the flick, for example, on the next turn, and then he can set up counter lethal, not giving Swids the time to redevelop the card that got sapped.
Yeah. Yes, and it's a board with little minions, but it's really annoying, right?
Yeah. Kind of makes you wish he had another observer. And on top of that, Swids has to worry about a random plague card that was generated by this transfer student. Plague of Murlocs is yet another removal option for Keelan, which Rogue shouldn't normally have to deal with. Swids is choosing to let her rip on the Solarian Prime, though. Oh, nice clear.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going. No, not face.
But the full clear and a priest.
That's a huge problem, actually. If the Fireball had gone face, then the Cone of Cold would definitely have to hit Keelan's minions. But because there are no more opposing minions, the Cone of Cold has to hit Swids' own board, which is an inconvenience, to say the least.
Yeah. Order.
All right, so Swids has not developed any duplicate minions, so the flick is still not Keelan's first instinct here. But I'm looking at this Plague of Murlocs and seeing if it could make this board a lot easier to deal with.
Yes, because it's a really big board, and Killing doesn't have Kronks in hand to deal with. So yeah, I think we may see the Plague of Murlocs join the game.
And if he gets any duplicate Murlocs, that's a flick combo. Doesn't have to worry about any secrets. That was a quest that was played, not a secret, so not a problem for Keelan there. I guess he's just planning out what's he gonna do with the rest of his turn. It could be Plague of Murlocs into Witchy Lackey into the Togwaggle, but I think he has to react to how threatening are the Murlocs that get jet in this. It could be anywhere from a 2-1 to a 4-4, I think. Okay, War Leader has to go.
Oof. Yeah, but he can trade with the weapon. It's not like the play you want to do because of your weapon you want to go face. But maybe he has to. He doesn't get to attack.
That is a case of roping there. I think you can pretty clearly see from Keelan's expression that he wanted to attack, whether it be to the face or to the Murloc War Leader. But now Swids has a window to try and pull this back. Amazing Reno drawn. Don't think it's the play for this turn because he can just take nice trades on board and then develop with his Deep Freeze if he wants. But he still knows the flick is in hand. Do you see any options with the Conjurer's Calling instead, maybe?
I don't know, because it's a good board, like it has the synergy, so I don't think the Conjurer's Calling will enter, but he's trying to get the 5 damage on his face for sure, so maybe he will freeze the Togwaggle and go all face. But yeah, the Togwaggle can make some stuff here because of Kronks, right?
Yeah, I was actually looking at trading into the Togwaggle, but Swids goes for the Conj onto a 2-cost minion. Very aggressive use of it, but I think he recognizes since he doesn't have a dragon, he won't actually have a good target for the Conj in the near future.
Yeah.
Keelan picks up Edwin Van Cleef. Gonna let her rip with the wand after testing for the secret. And the Waxadread gets its first revival. This could be a big turning point for Keelan S now.
Yes.
The one Umbral Skulker!
Yes, the Waxer going through, he can't get 3-0 mana cards. So it's kind of brutal here, but with the Faceless, he can control a lot more the board, and now with this Lucky, he will control everything.
If this were on ladder, you know that I'm playing this Umbral Skulker and getting my coins and getting my huge Edwin, but this is not ladder, and the card Reno exists, so if Keelan is playing this Umbral Skulker, I think he has to be careful about going all in with the Edwin.
Yes, but I think
he's doing it!
Oof.
Is he coining Shadow Step? Coin 1 mana Shadow Step? No, of course you don't.
No.
But that would be so funny if he did.
Yes, but I think you opened a really good window to Reno here. I think I would not go into that. Like this board with the Faceless and the Dragon, it was already threatening, right?
Right. I have to agree. I feel like Keelan maybe got a little too excited there, but that is a huge pickup. Alex Straza with coins? What nerf knife? There's no nerf.
There's no nerf, Gia.
And because the deck has so many one-ofs to begin with, it's pretty much easy activation for a Highlander card. This rogue deck is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Swids has an opportunity to go for Dragoncaster here, but he's still hesitant to play Deep Freeze because of those flick in hand.
Yes, he has the rolling fireball though to control a little more the Alexstrasza, but he can go with the Frost Nova if he wants to freeze. He has to be careful about his life total right now.
Even at 25, if you leave up an 8/8 minion, Rogue can sometimes go crazy. I was also looking at an option of Frost Nova plus Dragoncaster so that he could use the second half of Conjurer's Calling on the Dragoncaster, but decides to use it on the Bone Wraith instead, and he gets Nightshade Matron. That is an incredible outcome here. Switz, however, knows that Keelan has a dragon in hand, so he's going to be a bit careful about how he trades into the Chrono Breaker.
Yeah, I think he will trade on Alexstrasza and freeze the 5/4, the 4/5. So.
He can actually. This might be greedy, but I was looking at an option to freeze the Alexstrasza and then trade the 1/1 actually, given that the Chrono Breaker, if there's a taunt on board, can't immediately kill itself off. But Swids is going with the safer option, can't blame him for that, and Keelan gets the curve out with another Twin Tyrant.
Yes, he is putting a lot of pressure here. I don't know if Mage will be able to survive, Gia.
This is the late game strategy that we were talking about in the beginning, where if Rogue gets the Galakron on a timely notice, they can generate lackeys, the lackeys generate dragons or spells, and sometimes they can just outlast the removal from Mage here. So for Swids, are we already looking at a desperation play? The Solarian has been used, but the puzzle box is still in the deck. Tortolan Pilgrim is in hand. Do you think it's time, Nai?
Yes. It's time, Gia, because this board isn't looking good.
Well, there's also Nova Doomsayer, but he could be a puzzle box gamer if he believes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's gonna be Dragoncaster for now, so could still just be a little bit more delay. Swids can try to thin his deck out a little bit more. I'm not sure how many spells are left, but puzzle box has to be getting close to guaranteed.
Yes, he is trying to get some time here, and he's right, because if he has a lot of spells on his deck, it's the right choice, I think.
I didn't notice that Keelan had so few cards left in his deck. Oh my goodness. Already onto Fatigue. So Switz just needs to delay a little longer. That's why we saw him hold on to that Frost Nova, realizing that with 2 Ray of Frost, he actually removes most of the attacking damage already. But Keelan has now complete rush to remove this Doomsayer. He cannot give initiative back to Swids. He's going for board buff, I assume.
Yes, and he has to trade on Doomsayer. But now he has a full board and sweet. Okay.
1 mana Shadow Step.
Coin 1 mana Shadow Step seems good.
Yep. Yeah, I think Keelan has accomplished most of what he needed to do. Rain of Fire is the Reno spell. It's a little bit significant, removes an annoying taunt in the way, but I still think Swids, if he's not gonna Nova, he needs to box.
Yes, this is really rough for Swids. Let's see.
I mean, he has second Ray of Frost, and the Rolling Fireball could remove, I think, a fair amount of damage from the board, but there would still be at least 2 6 attack minions able to damage him. So Swids is not taking the risk there. Gonna clear out that taunt.
Yes, and here Killings doesn't have space on the board to work with like miscreants and lackeys and discover a lot of things. So yeah, I think will be a tie.
Yeah, going for complete defense mode for Keelan here, but the fatigue clock is ticking. Oh my gosh! What was that? No.
Yes.
This is just lethal. It has to be, right? Apexis
Yes.
Blast, trade, go face, and there's the fatigue. What is that flame strike?
Yes, Reno MVP of this matchup.
Okay, to be fair, I think there was still lethal even without that because of
Yeah.
the 2 removal spells on the taunts, but that was a very flashy way to go about it. So Swids manages to pull off the supposed unfavorable and turns the series back in FCB's favor. For now, it's a 1-1 score.
It's a 1-1 score, Gia. And now, let's see what RNG team will bring up because they have some spicy
Yes.
classes to bring up. Like they have the Hunter open, and
Yeah.
against Mage, we already know this matchup, right?
Yeah, you're right. Hunter has been left up by FC Barcelona, and that is shocking to me because we were talking about how Hunter is one of the most popular classes. They also have Demon Hunter available, and that just I don't know how you can ban classes, and one of them is not Demon Hunter. But clearly,
Yeah.
FC Barcelona has some strategy that we are not seeing on the surface. Maybe it can come to light later on. But between Demon Hunter and Hunt, which would you queue against Mage?
I think whatever. Both are really good against Mage. Like since we have the Highlanders archetypes from Mage and Hunter, we know that Hunter is really favorable against Mage.
Right.
But Demon Hunter is like a beast against Mage because most of the times Mage can't stop the aggressivity from the Demon Hunter. But as we said, the Mage of Barcelona has a lot of removals and aggro
Right.
tech cards, so I don't know. I think they will go with Hunter.
I have to agree with you there because that particular mage list is running Flame Ward and also Imprison Observer, which are very good at dealing with Demon Hunter's early threats, particularly the Satyr Overseer. I think that
Mhm.
that would cue RNG to use Hunter first in this particular counter queue. And the Highlander Hunter, we keep saying it's very favored against Mage. Can you tell me what particular cards are the best against Mage, Nai?
Well, let me see we don't have the list complete here.
Oh yeah, it's a
So
little
I
cut
don't
off.
know if they are actually use Nagrand Slan or
Mhm.
Alexstrasza, but I think Bran is a really good card, of course.
Yeah.
So we will have to wait to see. I on my notes I made the note. Well, this doesn't matter because we will not see Hunter playing here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would not have expected to pay close attention to Highlander Hunter either because I thought it'd get banned. But I have to say, even with the deck list only available here, just the fact that Stormhammer is there for Hunter, that's the big one for me. That continuous damage to mage, their healing is so limited. We saw that there was just armor from Reno, and sometimes you can time your Zephyrs nice, but a lot of the times mage's defense relies on freezing, making sure that the minions can't attack. But if Hunter doesn't have minions, sometimes they still have burst spells. They have their hero power. They have Stormhammer, and that's why Hunter is overall such a favorite in this matchup. But if
Y-
Mage is going to take the win, I think there's still some chance there if they get an early escape mana saber. So from the perspective of Mage, what do you think is their best strategy, Nai?
Yes, I think Mage have to have a strong curve, like with Doomsayer on the beginning, l- even transfer student to make a board. The Ray of Frost is a really good card on the early game. The Flame Ward helps a lot, but as you said, like the Mana Saber is a really strong card, and Twilight Drake is a really good card. So it's not like Hunter has already lost here, and we don't know if they will go with Hunter yet, right?
Yep, it is still a mystery. Of course, our teams can discuss with each other what the queue is going to be and also who is the player that will be piloting these decks, at least from the side of RNG, because Swids will be continuing on. He got the win, and it looks like we're going to hear from Liz coming up next, which is another player that has been participating in the Masters Tours, so no slouch in himself. We can see that he actually ended up third in Masters Tour Seoul last year. No small feat at all. And that's actually the tournament where two of Swids' best friends in the French scene actually became grandmasters.
Yes. So we are seeing now the graphics. What do you think?
Yeah. Liz has apparently full marks for experience and decision making. And I have to agree, from the experience front, he's been grinding away in the Chinese scene and in the international scene for a long time. Decision making, I want to see if he can live up to that here. As the international casters, we didn't actually put in our ballots for the Chinese players, but I can only assume this is how the Chinese casters evaluated them. And we now have Highlander Mage versus Highlander Hunter as we predicted. But am I reading this win rate graphic right, Snai?
Yes, I'm confused. Yeah.
I'm also shocked. There is no way that Hunter is this unfavored against Mage, unless we're supposed to read it the other way around.
Yes,
but the other thing is, this doesn't add to 100%.
Yes, even because Hunter didn't get nerfed and Mage did, so I don't know if these stats are...
Wait, I mean, they both got a little nerfed in terms of Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, but in terms of class cards, you're right. Of course, Dragon Caster nerf hurt Mage a little bit, so maybe we were reading those stats a little bit wrong a while ago, or maybe this is specific to GTC and GCWC only, and we've seen some variants. But either way, I still think the Hunter is still favored here, especially when they're opening with that Zephyrus for Liz.
Yes, they doesn't have a 1 mana curve yet, but it's a really good beginning.
Yeah. 2, 3, 4. But Swids also has two of those cards we were talking about that are so important for this matchup. Doomsayer early, leading up into a Mana Saber that's uncontested. But Liz has, easy numbers to count up from.
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And because if Swids decides to go for Doomsayer here, the Zephyrus could come in huge to just give silence or an immediate answer into the Doomsayer. But Swids is going to be patient with it because I think most likely because he has that Frost Nova that he can pair with the Doomsayer later on.
Yeah, or even the Ray of Frost that he top decked. So I don't know if you want to Zephyrus here because your curve is low, so I don't think you need to ramp. And you already have a 3 mana drop with Animal Companion.
Yeah, it's a good point because Zephyr essentially for immediate usage is just going to be a 3-2 and the value added is just that aggressive potential. The additional Animal Companion that Liz could pick up here optionally from Zephyrus if you were to play it would not be impactful until after the 4 mana turn because that's when Liz would have the time to play it again. And that's why we see him going for the natural Animal Companion and holding on to Zephyrus for more immediate value.
Yes. And here he has the Arcane Breath, but he doesn't have a dragon on hand.
This could be the Doomsayer turn for Swids though. Just with Ray of Frost, it's very difficult for 2 damage to get through the Doomsayer on 3 mana for Hunter, but Liz is going to be so happy that he held onto his Zephyrus here.
Yeah. And I think he has to use it, right? Because it's not like a super board, but it's a board that you want to hold on.
Yeah, tempo is so important in this matchup. If he gives Swiss initiative, even though he loses very unthreatening minions, it's kind of like saying, I'm allowing Swids to answer this board and the next board, because if he plays Mana Saber or Bone Wraith, and then there's a Conjurer's Calling that comes down, that's pretty much all downhill for the Hunter there. So we're going to see Liz expend some mana first and try to maneuver Zephyrus into giving silence 100%.
Yes. Yes, and there's a while that Zephyr is reading well the Doomsayer, so no problem here.
Doomsayer is one of the few minions without a keyword that Zephyrus does read. It's a special case.
Yes.
And now that kind of ruins Swids' plans because he was expecting, I can have a clear board, play my Mana Saber, and go pretty easily from there. But now there's a lot of damage staring him down. If he wants to just play Mana Saver, it's going to cost him so much HP. Looking at deviating, maybe he can set up the Observer, even though it's going to take a while to get
Yes,
on.
but even with the Observer is a lot of damage we are seeing on this board. Unless he wants to go with the Observer and the Breath, the Arcane Breath. Yeah.
Yeah, Arcane Breath feels bad to use there because of no dragon, but I understand that Swids needs to save his HP a little bit there. And he just goes to set up preemptive board clear. And to be fair, he can stall for a couple turns until the Observer is active because he has so much freeze in hand.
Yeah.
So here for Liss, the Bone Wraith and the Bone Chewer Brawler actually put the same amount of attack on board. So do you favor fitting in the hero powers here or just staying on curve?
I think you stay on curve. It doesn't die for the Observer. Like the 2 mana you can ping and then set to the Observer anyway.
Right.
So I like this.
Yeah, it's a good point. Bone Chewer
Yes,
Brawler
and
even,
I like the positioning because of the rolling fireball.
Yeah, good catch. Positioning it next to the Divine Shield makes it so that Swids can't just clear 3 minions at once. But that's a pretty good top deck now. Rusty Raider can clear the first half of the Bone Wraith, put a taunt in the way for RNG Liss, and also just buy him more time to clear with the Observer next turn.
Yes. But Swids is almost always answering, so I don't know if he can get through this board, right? Because even if he goes with the Observer on the next turn, then Liz can go with the Dragon that has 5 health, and then Varanus to set up a board to clear on the next turn. So yeah.
It does look like Swids is playing from behind, but I see that the game plan here is just trying to survive until Deep Freeze, right? So obviously he would want to play the Mana Saber to get that out a bit sooner, but if he plays Mana Saber this turn, it's still not available next turn. So that's why my line of thinking is it's Rusty this turn into Mana Saber Ray of Frost next turn, just survive, and then end with the Deep Freeze. But Swids is going for a different play altogether, which is just Frost Nova ping and try to get the most value out of the Observer right now. I'm very surprised by this.
Yes, me too, because the Nova, you want to keep it as long as you can, but it was a lot of pressure and you are already with 19 of health. So let's see what's the line of play of Liz here. He can go with the Dragon, but he is afraid of the next steps for Swids for sure.
Yeah. But among the 3 minions he can play, the Dragon is the most resilient against Observer, and I don't think he can afford to just pass, so I would also lean towards that. I guess looking at Swids' turn again, he held on to Rusty Raider because if he played it, RNG Liss can actually trade off his minions into the Raider, and so Swids would end up getting less value from his Prison Observer. So that must be the reason why he held on to it.
Yes, for sure. And here he prays for Swids doesn't have a rolling fireball.
Yep.
This would be insane. But he doesn't have.
Very clean here. So again, it's a crossroads for Swids. The Rusty Raider looks like it would be the best use of mana, but I think he really wants to get down the Mana Saber to prepare for Deep Freeze next turn.
Yes. And now you have Alexstrasza, so you have to build up a board here.
So between those two options, also another option if you go with the Mana Saber route, if you play 1 Ray of Frost or 2 Ray of Frost or even just ping. I don't think he can get away with just pinging. I think he has to freeze the 6-3. But do you think he'll also use the second half to freeze the 3-3?
Yeah, it seems like he's going to ping.
Wow.
And Mana Saver.
Man, that seems like a lot of health that he'll use if he's not freezing anything here.
Yeah.
Wow. So RNG Liz has a chance to get rid of a great minion here, but the Doomsayer he silenced is actually coming back to bite him a little bit in terms of Rotnest Drake's snipe potential.
Yes, and do you trade first, or you only go with another curve, like the dragon you draw now, and another drop 2? But he's going to, yeah.
Do you trade at all is my question. I don't know. I feel like 2 out of 3 times this hits a pretty good target, and if it doesn't kill the Mana Saver, so be it. You can still put Swids down to 12 HP. That's pretty good for Hunter, a few pings away and maybe some top deck spells, but he has to know that Mage is going to get something powerful online going into the next turn.
Yeah.
Ooh! Oh my gosh! Liz, you god.
This was huge.
Yep. Okay, that's a good draw for Swids. But, I mean, a disastrous outcome.
Yeah.
I am definitely looking at Flame Ward and freeze the 6-5 and ping something, probably the 6-5 also? Or the
yes,
5-3?
he has to make the taunt, trade, ping, and trade, and freeze. And try to hold another turn, and he can do that, right?
He can, but it's gonna be so painful. And the other option is just to play Rusty Raider, ping, and trade. That would leave him with a 1-6 against a 6-5 and 2-2. I think that the Flame Ward feels safer, along with the freeze.
Yeah. Really rough turns for Swedes now.
Yeah. And for RNG List, we can go back to that turn and say he got super lucky, but I think he was prepared even if the outcome was killing the Doomsayer that he wanted to go face. Because if he decided to trade into the 4-5, then it's a 50-50 to actually get a bad outcome versus the best outcome. And if he trades into Doomsayer, that's kind of just like wasting the pressure he had to begin with. So I wouldn't say that even though he got lucky, it's not like he was playing bad or anything.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, now Liz has the tracking. Let's see if he can get Brun. Yeah.
Swids with the good trades there ends up getting rid of the Rotnest Drake instead. And I think that slightly justifies not using the freeze there instead. RNG Liz though, and it's a rough track, right? Because you never want to give up Bran, but he doesn't get any immediate strong impact.
Yes, but you can set up lethal here, so of course the Stormhammer is a really good drop as well, but you are not setting lethal with it, so I agree with Liz.
Actually, the Stormhammer would have set up lethal, right? If you just Stormhammer, hit face, ping, then another hero power the next turn sets up lethal. But I guess if he's worried about Zephyrus into healing, you would rather have the Bran for more pressure rather than relying on your hero power.
Yes, and here I think it's power of creation into Kartut.
Yep.
It's the only option.
Okay, safeguard. That's
Is
very
that
annoying.
Enough? Yes.
Yeah, for now. Unless... Or not. Okay, Liz, can you do it another time? You won the 1 in 3. Can you win the 1 in 5? You can make it a 1 in 4 with 2 trades, but that feels probably not as good as just playing a bigger minion. I'm not sure, actually. This turn is very tricky.
Yeah. Like, Veranos isn't going with anything on this board. So maybe...
I think it's still Dragonbane. I'm just not sure
Yeah.
it's trade Dragonbane or Dragonbane first, because if it hits either of the safeguards or face, that's a good outcome, right? The face is immediate win. So I look at this as 60% chance for good outcomes if you
Mm-hmm.
Dragonbane first, with 20% for winning outcome. But he's gonna go for 25% immediate win and 25% good. I guess even if it hits the observer, that's a good outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Decent. Well, it's a bit tough to figure out the optimal line for List there, but now Swids has a little bit of breathing room. He's still hiding behind a 2-layered taunt, but the Bran is in hand, ready to go, so I think he has to freeze many minions.
Yes, he can go with Deep Freeze and then the other freeze, but you can't kill the Dragonbane, so
Yeah. I mean, he will at least put 2 water elementals on board and make the Dragonbane have worse aim. I just don't know if there's time to go for anything else. He's hovering over the Flame Ward instead. Okay. So he's trying to set up a way to deal with the Dragonbane. He says, Deep Freeze is not enough. As long as I survive this turn, then I can puzzle box next turn. I think that's a valid way of thinking as well.
yeah. And here Liz can't go with Bran because of Reno.
Yep. And so we're looking at the Primordial Explorer instead, maybe?
Explorer. Yes, I think so.
And these safeguards have been very clutch for Swids. Liz also has the option to play Varanus instead to just put more guaranteed pressure onto the board. Also gets a little bit punished by Reno, but if Swids is playing Reno into that, then you can also just say, checkmate, I have Bran the next turn and I win. So
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at Varanus instead here for tempo.
Okay. Yes, it's a rough decision here.
I mean, you can play around Reno, but you can't play around Puzzle Box. So if I'm Liz, I'm playing around the Reno instead.
Oof.
Okay, though. Gonna go for the immediate clear on the taunt, and now Swids has a box and a dream.
Let's see what's in the box, Gia.
Okay, we're starting off with the Grand Slap. What a way to start, my goodness. Okay, King Crush survives. Shiv for cycle. Demon Council? Shadow Council? Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
I don't know the name of that card. I'm sorry. Holy Wrath. What's the self-kill? It hits Swids' face out of 7 targets. But of course, we have to see the end of the box before Swids dies. What was that?
If the Hex would go in the King Crush, I think Sweets would be really mad.
Oh my gosh. Holy Wrath on your own face. Man, I miss Holy Wrath Paladin because you could actually target where the Holy Wrath goes.
Yes. I actually don't miss it.
Okay.
I didn't like the Chirvala Paladin time, but yeah, I play it a lot.
I love that deck. Nay, we can't be friends anymore. That is going to be, though, at the very least, the expected outcome for Hunter to indeed beat Mage there. We got word from production that the win rate graphic had some slight error, so they're going to look into that a bit later. And I'm really glad that my knowledge of the universe is not entirely wrong. It does mean, though, that FC Barcelona are now down another series. So counter-queuing into Hunter, what do you think is their best option, Nai?
Let me see, Gia. Let me open here my Discord. Just getting to the graphics. So Barcelona against Hunter. this is difficult, right?
Yeah.
They have, I think it's Galacron Shaman, Pala Murloc, the Galacron Priest,
Uh, and
and
they've
the Rogue.
already lost. Yeah, with the Druid and the Mage. So you're right. It's Rogue. And among these, I have to say, I think Rogue is their
Rogue.
best shot. Yeah.
Yeah, Rogue's the best shot, but even though it's not that easy for Rogue, if the hunter has a really good start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for hunter to curve is not not difficult.
I
Let
have to
me
say,
see the Rogue list of
yeah.
Barcelona here.
I do think that's a matchup that's a bit closer to 50-50, and depending on who you ask, they'll say Rogue is favored or Hunter is favored. So I think it's fair to cue Rogue there, absolutely, just as the strongest power level class remaining, aside from Priest, but Priest I think has a poor matchup against Hunter. Is there any room to pull out a Paladin cheese win here, Nai? I mean, Murlocs can sometimes snowball against Hunter if they don't hit the one drop.
Yeah, but what I was going to say, Gia, is actually the Barcelona has the secret Galacron Hulk. So
Mm,
I think the stealth one is better against Hunter, and I think the secret one is really bad on the beginning because
right.
it doesn't have like a real good start, and you can't have the 3/1 stealth minions to protect and trade. So I don't really know if it's a good choice for them.
It's interesting you say that because I actually think the secret package rogue, if you're still running Spy Mistress, is fine. They have a one copy of
One,
Spy Mistress,
yeah.
so it's a little bit worse, but there's the chance to get that Blackjack Stunner start where if you're able to get that down online versus Hunter's first minion, whether it's a Blazing Battle Mage or a Fairy Dragon, that's a snowball the rogue out of control. So it will be Blythe coming up next, the famous back-to-back master trainer. You can see it there in his career achievements. That's just blows my mind. And most recently, even ninth place in Asia Pacific Masters Tour.
Yes, this is really crazy, Gia. Like on the first day, he was 5-0, and I was, oh my god, this guy is going to the top 8 again. How is that possible?
He's
He's
very,
a
very nearly there.
monster.
Yeah. He is unstoppable, probably going to have all eyes on him when the next season of Grandmasters comes around. But for now, we get to see Blythe's strengths as we voted on them, which is mostly on his macro game plan and tech. But the experience is not actually as high as the Chinese players rated least because as far as how long Blythe has been playing, I believe it's just a couple years that he's been in professional Hearthstone, whereas his teammates maybe for 4 or 5 years.
Yes, and on experience thing, I hated the players like with 5 points, which was the most amount of points that we could give him. To players who went to the World Championship, to Championship on ACT back on times, and made some top 8s now on days on Master Tour. So yeah, we like Blythe was a name that we are looking for. Like he has really good results, but he only showing up really strong now, right?
Yeah. And we can't say that a lack of experience is necessarily the end of the world. I mean, experience in Hearthstone, how long you've been playing does not necessarily mean that it correlates with how good you are. Look at me. I've been playing since 2014. Have I done well in a Masters Tour? No. So let's not take that too seriously there. Blythe is going to be queuing up that rogue first. The graphic did say it's a little bit unfavored versus Highlander Hunter, which I can believe. I don't think this is any error with the graphic.
Yeah. So let's see how it's going to do. Like Blythes already have a really good hand here.
Yeah.
It's what
Seal
you are
Fate
looking
on
for on this matchup, to have a one turn, to be not the first, because as Hoagie you always want the coin, but
right.
it's fine.
Yeah, I think the more recent cards in Rogue have allowed it some flexibility to not feel so sad about going first. Pharaoh Cat is a big one, and even Seal Fate as a removal spell that's on odd cost mana really helps the curve for Rogue a little bit if they don't have the coin. But for Lise here, it's a pretty good mid-game option for him here. It's just awkward that after he plays Scavenger Ingenuity, there's so many 3-cost cards that he wants to play.
Yeah. Stormhammer going in.
I'm definitely looking at the Ingenuity. Even though he has option for coin 3 drop into weapon, I think that if he hits the Diving Griffin, that's the worst outcome, but if it lines up into an Evil Miscreant, that's still a win for the Hunter. And if he hits Zixar Prime, that's just one of the most difficult minions for Rogue to deal with because it immediately trades, so it can't get backstab or seal fated.
Yes, only with Eviscerate, but Blizes doesn't have it, and he doesn't use it. Eviscerates on the hand, so...
Awkward turn.
On the hand? No, on the deck. He doesn't use it.
Yeah,
So
awkward
it's
turn
going
for
to be
Blythe
hard.
because he knows that there is a rush minion that can guarantee deal with Questing Adventure if he plays it. But he realizes that with the hand he has, it's either gonna be a big Edwin or a big Questing. He can't spread his resources alongside both, or they'll both be too small. So he's saying, I'm gonna sacrifice this Questing to give me more time to build a bigger Edwin later on. And I completely respect that play.
Yeah. But here, from the side of Lise, he has some answers to a part of the big cliff that is the Zixar, who is not going anywhere soon.
Big draw for Blythe.
Yes.
Allows him a combo activator, whereas there wasn't previously for the Miscreant, and he gets Kobold Lackey, which is just stellar in this matchup. Gives him so much tempo.
Yeah. Now you can go with the Skyo Raider, but you know that if your opponent has the Seal of Fate, it's like super perfect to him.
Yeah, Seal of Fate plus 2 Lackeys is an on-curve play. But for Blythe, there's possibly an even better option of Lackey Backstab Edwin. He will have to leave one minion up on Lisa's side, but I don't think it's a big deal whatsoever. However, he has to be very wary of the Rotnest Drake possibility from the other side. So if Blythe does leave a minion up, that means Lise can trade into a Lackey, for example, and take a 50-50 to deal with Edwin. But because there's 2 Lackeys, I guess it's not that big of a deal anyway.
Yeah. Oh, Murgo.
That's very annoying for Hunter.
Yeah. Well, here Lise has some ways to deal with the Van Cleef.
Mm-hmm.
Like he can kill command and then corrosive breath.
Definitely what I'm looking at. There's also kill command and Stormhammer if he wants to coin, but I feel like he wants to save coin for Siamat.
Yes, and do you trade on the Lackey because of Togwoggle?
Yeah, I think I would here. At least if he's using both kill command and the corrosive breath to deal with Edwin, I don't think Lise can be on an aggro game plan anymore. It's more of like saying his hand curves into the late game with the Siamat and the Alex, so he's gonna try to win the board instead. So I like this trade.
Yeah. Let's see. Ooh, Twilight Drake is good here.
Yeah. Fills out the curve very nice for Blythe going into the Gallocron. Even though it won't be fully invoked, it just keeps the train going for Blythe.
Yeah. It's looking good so far.
And Lise here can coin out the Siamat to take Rush Divine Shield to deal with the Twilight Drake. It's pretty clean. Yes, he leaves up a Lackey, but I think the other options look like they're gonna get value traded by the Twilight Drake instead.
Yeah, but the Lackey here doesn't matter anymore because he knows that Blythe has another Lackey on the hand, and
Exactly.
he would be able to do Lackey and Toggle Woggle, so...
Good point. Wouldn't matter anyway if he leaves something up. If he goes for tracking, for example, is there anything he's particularly searching for? I think Desert Spear might be useful, but again, that's more like something you want to do after you deal with the Twilight Drake.
Yes, seems like he's going with Primordial Explorer into the Hammer.
Yeah. The hammer is not very clean here if he's just using it to deal with the McGurgle, but based on this play, we can see Lee's really values the coin to maybe smooth out the curve going into Alexstrasza a bit more. Picks up Varanus. I was definitely looking at Evasive Burn because of this 5-5, but maybe this is just hoping that the poison can challenge it instead.
Yes, but the Seal of Faith and Fooling Galacron here.
Yeah. That is gonna be so difficult for Lee's to deal with next turn.
Yes, it's a really big deal here, Gia.
5-7 taunted up as well. Being pressured from all different points.
Yes, and here Tiamat doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah. I think it might be tracking to look for Zephyrus now.
And to Brawl.
Maybe not this turn, but at the very least he can play Varanus after the tracking and just hit the Twilight Drake. You leave up Hanar, but it's gonna be painful, I think, no matter which way he looks at it.
Let's see if he can get it, and he could get it, yeah.
Okay. Not necessarily Brawl. I wonder if there's an option to go for an Earth Shock setup instead. You could play the Freeze, Zephyrus, Earth Shock, the Twilight Drake, but I'm still actually looking at saving the Zephyrus. I think that the Varanus is not so bad here. He will take a lot of damage, but it's not quite lethal range yet for Rogue.
And he's going with your play, yeah. A lot of damage going in, and now with Galacron and Cobalt Lackey and Shadow Step, how many damage is that?
Looks like one off. Oh my gosh. Oh, sorry, it's not fully invoked.
Ooh, we both thought that.
Yeah, me too. Still gonna be very problematic for Lise though, because that flick was a huge drop for Blythe. Dealt with his Varanus very cleanly, and now Liz probably has to use Zephyrus for a clear option, but if he's using it for clear, he's not using it for healing. For Blythe, I don't think he Shadow Steps anything here. I'm definitely looking at Shadow Stepping Kobold Lackey if I'm Blythe here.
Yeah.
Oh wow. It's actually removing pressure from the board to deal with a possible Zixor Prime from Lise. I think that's Blythe's biggest fear right now.
Yeah. And he's actually in a good spot, but because he knows that Lise has to clean his board.
Yeah. And without Desert Spear, he can use the Unleash the Hounds, take some trades, and he can still develop actually Companion also alongside that. Don't mind it. I mean, I would be very tempted to coin 3/3 drops, but I think Lise has held onto the coin this long, so he can coin Alexstrasza plus Dragon.
Right.
Do you like Hounds plus Companion plus Hero Power?
Yes, I think so.
Any reason
I would
for
be
going Shadow
tempted
Weaver
to
instead?
the three mana drop as well, because you leave your opponent with some pressure, but you know he has Flick on the hand.
Oh, he's actually coining the Shadow Weaver as well. So he's giving up on the Turbo Alex plan, which I think is fine at this point, because he still has strong plays next turn before turn 10, Alex Strauss.
Yes, and he had to put some pressure on Blaze. Yeah, and this is another dead drop. Oh my god.
Oh, another Kobold Lackey. Blythe has time. I think it's fine for him to just flick and pass this turn. I don't know. I'm starting to get fancy here, Nayara. If he draws a secret, he can bounce his own Lackeys.
Yeah. Yes, I thought that on the last turn.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he is building a little board, but it's some kind of pressure here.
Oh my goodness. I did not expect this from Blythe. So if he's going for a board-centric plan now, he must flick the 4-3, right?
Yeah, I think so. No,
Wow.
he's not going to.
Just playing a bunch of little guys, saving the flick still for the Zixor Prime, but this might give Lise the time to actually sweep the board and win through value now.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Siamat Rush Wind Fury. Everything's so expensive.
Yeah, Zor, he can... he knows the flick, right? Yes, I think the Windy Fury is the most correctly played here because of the flick, of course. And you have to trade or otherwise...
Yeah, if you're Lise, you have so much information, right? Blythe has bounced back the flick, so he knows that. And the card from Pharaoh Cat has not been played all game, so Lise knows it's most likely either Generous Mummy or Colossus of the Moon. And both of those, I mean, if it's Colossus, he probably wants to hold on to Zephyrus. And so I fully expect Siamat to be the turn here, because if it's Alex or Brand, then Flick can deal with that pretty easy.
Yeah.
Gonna hold his weapon charge as well. And it's a secret!
Now
oh
the
my
secrets.
gosh! Oh no! The regrets!
One turn later.
Yeah. I feel so much second-hand regret for Blythe right now.
Yeah. And he is not going with the Colossus right now, so...
Fishing for a better Lackey than that. Taunt is not what he needs. I think he wanted the Draconic Lackey or even Ethereal to give him some sort of value. But this is Liz's moment to turn the tides. Transfer Student on this board will give him a Lackey as well.
Yes, and he can run and then the student and then trade the...
Yeah. This is one of the few situations where trading King Crush feels very good because Blythe is out of value. How did this happen? The Galakron came early. Just didn't hit Togwaggle, I guess. But I also don't know if Blythe had to be so aggressive with his use of the Blackjack Stunners.
Yes, and the backstab on the flick, it wasn't that too slow. I don't know. It had the point that you pointed of the Zixor Prime. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if he wants to use Zephyrus for healing right now, can get Radiance or even
or hold his might
healing?
to take the 3 to 4 to 3.
I don't know. There's a lot of like interesting options there, but he's just taking Radiance because I think he realizes from here with Alex Raza in hand, he's just worried about the Kronk's top deck, right? He's in such a good spot in terms of value.
Yeah, and I think this will be a wrap because
I mean, the Colossus though, I mean, because Lise used the Zephyrus, he doesn't have an immediate answer for Colossus. So he can either say, Blythe, you don't have 1 damage, which is very risky because of course he can generate the damage from the Lackey and just play Alex Straza. Or he can go Transfer Student, look for a Lackey of his own. So Titanic would be huge. But everything else, not so much.
Yes, but Titanic is a really low chance. And
1 in 13, right?
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, he can kill it, but it's very awkward trades.
Yeah, but he can kill it.
Yeah, I mean it's fine, right? The King Crush trades a 1-1, which
Yeah,
it never feels good, but as long as he stays alive, he just wins. It's like,
yeah. And I think you never lose on that spot.
yeah. So Bly's looking for a Kronk's top deck now. One of the worst ones you can get. And a useless Lackey. Oh my goodness. Lise takes the win from what seemed like a very good position for Bly's there. Man, that
Yeah.
was close.
Yes, and the Chinese players showing what they got.
Mhm. Yeah, 3-1 victory there. I think it was very, very convincing. 3-1 is actually a score you don't see often in LHS. Usually it's 0-3 or 3-2.
Yeah.
But the counter queue there of the Rogue, or supposed counter queue, didn't actually work out end there. I really want to rewind back to the turn where Blythe played both the Kobold Lackey and both the Blackjack Stunner. Do you think
Yeah.
he was under enough pressure to do that?
Yes, I think so, but I feel like doesn't fit the 4-3 on that turn. I don't know if I can agree. Of course, Blythe has the minds up, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
It's hard for us to criticize somebody who won 2 Masters Tour, but it's of
Yeah.
course because we respect Blythe so much that we're gonna be even more critical of every one of his plays to see if he's keeping up all of the polish. But of course, that's just the first series that FC Barcelona have played. Congratulations to RNG. We didn't get to see their whole team, of course, because it
Yeah.
was just 2 decks that they needed to take the win. But I think I very much liked what we saw from both Keelan and Liz. And we didn't see Leo get to play, but he's also very strong. So I expect great things from them throughout the rest of the week.
Yes. Remember for you guys that this is a last hero standing, but we are on the phase group and it's a double elimination bracket, right?
Yeah, I do believe so. And there's also a second group of players that will be playing tomorrow and then 2 days after. So every other day, you'll be seeing the same group of players for both Battlegrounds and Constructed.
Yes, and we have one more constructed game today, so yeah.
Yes, I think this is the last series that I'll be doing for the day. Thank you so much. I'm glad I got the opportunity to cast with you for the first time, Nai. I'm hoping
Yes,
you're
Gia.
having a good time over here on our international broadcasts, and I wish you luck a bit later. So far, what is your favorite deck that we've seen?
I don't know. Maybe I like it the both to bring mage at this time of the competition, but I don't know which is my favorite so far.
I have to say that Mage was not the most usual build that we saw from FC Barcelona, but the tech of Flame Ward, the tech of the Overseer, and the fact that they're not banning Demon Hunter first, I think really shows that their strategy is more leaning towards trying to target the popular decks. It's
Yeah.
not worked out for them so far, but I think it's very brave, and those types of risks are something that there's really a chance to succeed with when you're in a very unfamiliar format. But we can see here the Group A other match for the day is going to be between Team Liquid and Team IG. So Liquid, a team that we as casters have some bias towards. We tag them as the best players in the tournament. But do you think that they'll hold up versus IG?
Yes, let's see, because we saw that the Chinese players has that kind of thing with the last hero standing. So let's see if it will repeat on the next.
That's right. And tomorrow we can see from T1, Lucky Future, G2, and from World Elite. So there's a lot of Hearthstone action going on throughout the entire week leading up to the finals on day 7. That's going to be it from me for today, guys. I will be throwing you guys into the very talented hands of our other casters throughout the day. So I'll see you guys later, and don't go anywhere during this break.
Yeah.